Welcome back everyone, and thanks for joining me for another episode of my Aston Villa career on FIFA 16. Who would have thought my first season in charge of Villa would have turned out this way? It started off rocky, as we know. We got knocked out of the Capital One Cup. That's a bit of a setback, and we weren't winning as many games. If we did, it was only a 1-0 win here and there. The majority of our starting games were all draws. We were just picking up points left, right and centre. And at the time I was thinking, you know, we'd be very, very lucky if we was to make even the Europa League this season. But one day, I can't quite remember which game it was, something just ticked with this team. Now, okay, heading into this game against Swansea, we were down in 8th, but again, it's still very close. We're well on track for a Europa League / Champions League spot. We can still make it. And over the last 2 episodes, we were in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Yes, we got took to a replay against Rotherham, but you know, we went to Rotherham, we beat them 1-0, and we are going to Wembley to play against Newcastle in the semi-final, which you'll see a bit later on in this episode. But we've got a chance of winning a piece of silverware if we could get past Newcastle, a team that we've already beaten this season. What a brilliant stage in the season to be picking up momentum. And heading into this game against Swansea, you saw the league table at the start of the episode. If we could snatch all 3 points at the Liberty Stadium, we could leapfrog them, go into 6th and be a couple of points behind Tottenham, who were in 5th, still on track for that Europa League spot. And if it wasn't for Steven Naismith, the sign-in from Everton in January, then the game would definitely have ended as a draw. We would have been coming away from Swansea with just a point, but what a finish from him. Brilliant setup. But as good as that moment was, we had to put it behind us. We had to focus our attention on our next game against Bournemouth. A great opportunity to get 3 points there, as they are bottom of the table. They're certainly not in any good form at the moment. And you can see our remaining fixtures. We've got a midweek game against Manchester United. That's going to be so tough for Old Trafford as well, having to travel from Wembley. The players, they're going to be so fatigued. And our final game of the season will be away at the Emirates against Arsenal. As I just mentioned, you know, this game against Bournemouth, being at Villa Park as well, the advantage was well in our hands. It was a great opportunity to get 3 points. They have a good set of players at Bournemouth, players that have desire, that have that grit and determination, but considering our recent form and just overall morale in the team, we had to come away with the 3 points. It'd be an absolute disgrace. It'd be a disappointment if we couldn't. And Steven Naismith, who seems to be on a bit of a run, getting his name on that score sheet lately, managed to get Villa's nose in front in this game, in front of the home fans. And it was a wonderful strike as well, taking the ball into the box. They rarely made a challenge, and that was their downfall. It's like they were standing statues. You could definitely tell there was some defeatism going on there. It's almost as if they'd accepted that they'd already been relegated from the Premier League this season, and they were just picking up the cheque at the end of the month, really, the players. But saying that, in the second half, it was kind of a different story, as there was a bit of fight left in Bournemouth. It was Sermon with the equaliser. I was very shocked by this because I thought I had it cleared, I had it covered with Amavi, but Wilson just getting his body in the way, managed to cross the ball into just outside the 6-yard area. And what a finish from Sermon. Adrian completely route to the spot. He was put off by the initial shot from Wilson, as I think Adrian was still climbing back to his feet. But you know, there was still time left in the game for us to go and get a second goal to really put this game to bed, wrap things up and come away with those 3 points. And it'd be former Everton startlet Steven Naismith once again to get the second goal of the game, his second goal as well. Couldn't believe my luck, really. The amount of control and composure that he showed with that moment. You know, he was surrounded by Bournemouth players, takes the touch, spins on it, beats Distan, pulls the trigger, and thankfully found the back of the net. Burak had been beaten for a second time. We looked to try and get ourselves a third, which would have really cemented the 3 points. And Sanchez, he had a moment like that in, it was a couple of games ago now, where it was from a set piece, from a corner, where he could have, all he had to do was just tap it in. But again, he failed in another moment. I can't remember the last time Sanchez scored for this Villa side. But anyway, we managed to hold in there and get those all-important and crucial 3 points. God, we needed them. And Steven Naismith, how about that? 3 goals in 2 games. Brilliant, brilliant form from him. And speaking of scoring goals, Charlie Austin, it's not looking good for him at the moment. He's looking to break his dismal 13-game goalless streak. How has that happened? It's gone by so quickly, but he hasn't scored in 13 games. Seriously, what is going on? But yet I keep selecting him for the first team. I suppose Gabby Agbonlahor's just, well, I was going to say tearing his hair out, but he hasn't got any. But he would be thinking to himself, why aren't I getting picked? I could do a much better job than Charlie Austin. I could be getting those crucial goals that we need. And to be fair, yes, he has scored quite a few important goals earlier in the season, especially in that game against Chelsea back at Stamford Bridge. But with Agbonlahor, it's a bit like Guzan that we saw earlier in the season. It's a bit hit and miss, you know, where you would start him and he just wouldn't do anything at all. And then one game he would. So I stood my ground. I showed a bit of stubbornness and I did start Charlie Austin for our next game in the FA Cup semi-final against Newcastle. You can see that they've been doing a bit of strengthening over the last two transfer windows. You can see that Aiden Dzeko signed for Newcastle. How did that happen? Dzeko being a bit of a thorn in my side over the past couple of FIFAs. He's always managed to find the back of the net, so that was an extra challenge for this game for me to try and put a stop to him scoring. And of course we had Adrian in goal, who's been in fine form since signing on the dotted line in January from West Ham. And to start things off, there was an injury. Thankfully it wasn't to a Villa player, an important Villa player. It was to Papis Cisse, who really does have the potential to get in the grill of the opposition, cause you some trouble, and we took him out. So he was replaced by Mitrovic, but I suppose, you know, someone like Mitrovic on FIFA, maybe it was a better choice to bring him on to pair up with Dzeko. You can see Dzeko getting his first shot away on goal. Thankfully Adrian put a stop to it, almost went in as well, the ball hammering against the crossbar. The first 45 minutes though, the majority of it was just Newcastle, but it was such a battle in midfield. Both teams found it difficult to get any shots away, so there's hardly any highlights. But in the second half, both teams came alive. It was end-to-end action. You can see Clement Grenier having a go on goal, way outside the penalty area. Krul called to action, had to save that, and would show great reactions as well, because the ball did take a deflection. It was going into the back of the net, but at the last second, Krul, what a save. And that's why I was actually thinking about signing him in that January transfer window if I hadn't been able to capture the signature of Adrian from West Ham. It was Villa, believe it or not, that would get the nose in front, that would get the lead against Newcastle. All the Newcastle fans were sitting down on their seats, fingers on lips. They couldn't believe what they'd just seen. Their defence torn apart by Grenier and Scott Sinclair. Sinclair, the goal scorer, it's almost as if he had eyes in the back of his head. He knew where the ball was coming from as Grenier fed it through, almost through the eye of a needle. And to be fair, there was a bit of disorganisation going on there. I'm not sure what Colaccini was doing. He had enough time, enough space to get over to Sinclair before he pulled the trigger and put the ball into the back of the net. So I'm sure the Newcastle manager wouldn't be too happy with going a goal behind, which could have been prevented. Sinclair was in the mood. He almost got his second as he ran the ball into the box, showing great dribbling skills, keeping the ball close to his feet as well. Nice tidy work, but in the end the finish was just atrocious. Charlie Austin almost got on the score sheet. I'm not sure why he struck the ball right at the heart at Krul, but we won a corner from that in the 73rd minute. Sinclair stepped up to take, and it was Charlie Austin again that got another shot away for Villa, this time going out for a goal kick. Krul, I think when you look at the replay, you can see the ball hits the post, but did it touch his fingertips and then hit the post, or the other way around? Not sure, but it went out for a goal kick anyway. But look how close Newcastle were to getting an equaliser. So unfortunate for Mbemba. I mean, it was an open goal. He really should have been making it 1-1 there. Such a hectic ending to what started off as a pretty boring game, to be honest. It was absolute bedlam at Wembley. It was end-to-end stuff. You could see how quickly we hit Newcastle on the counter from that opportunity that they had. It was Westwood that drew Krul out of his goal. And even though Charlie Austin was surrounded by Newcastle defenders, he still managed to stick his foot out to get on the end of that cross from Westwood to make it 2-0 to Aston Villa, which would be the goal to put the game to bed. It's the goal that Austin had been looking for 13 games. Unbelievable. And of all games for it to come in, it just had to be at Wembley in the FA Cup semi-final. Ladies and gentlemen, we are heading back to Wembley at the end of the season to play in the FA Cup final. We have a chance of lifting some silverware this season. Tremendous stuff. I mean, at the start of this career mode, I didn't expect this Villa side to win the Premier League straight away. We're not at that stage yet. Hopefully we'll get there eventually. But, you know, we had the Capital One Cup. We got knocked out of that in the second round by Barnsley. We haven't been in any European competitions, so there was only the FA Cup that we could potentially win. And we're just 90 minutes away from doing that. Absolutely amazing. You can see with the headlines now as well, a goal at last for Charlie Austin as he put an end to that 13-game streak of just being goalless. It makes me wonder how I managed to get on as well over those 13 games without a top goal scorer scoring goals. And also there was an update on Cissé's injury after he got taken out by Grenier. Had to come out that semi-final. He's out for 3 months. Kind of feel bad now. But then again, Scott Sinclair did get injured as well in that semi-final. He's only going to be out for 5 days though, thankfully. Anyway guys, that's all for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed. See you in the next one.